Hi guys, this is Mujtaba again from GSV. Today we're going to talk about building from India for the world. We'll start off by having each of these founders talk about the stories of their companies. As far as I understand, none of them actually intentionally built global businesses. It's all sort of a different roundabout story. Deepak, why don't we start with you, if you could tell us the story of Quizzes and how it came to be.
Sure, yeah. So, when we started, me and Ankit really, Ankit, my co-founder, didn't really know much about anything, I'd say. We just wanted to build something, and education felt like a space where the software was really bad, and we thought, we can add some value by building something good. And I think one of the good things we did was when we quit our jobs as software engineers, we moved to Bangalore and started working with the school. And I think that gave us our insights. And the first product we built was a math learning game that just made math a little more fun for kids. And while that was liked by our users, we struggled to keep churning out content, right? It was quite a treadmill. And it was just me and my co-founders. So,
And you were doing B2C or was this also B2B?
this was like a free platform. So I think, that itself was
Any
part of
individual
our,
could just
yeah,
sign
anybody
up,
could
okay.
just sign up, and we
Yeah.
were just trying to get users initially. And so so then, as they say, necessity is the mother of invention. So we wanted to solve this content creation problem, and we also wanted to, we had seen that kids loved multiplayer, right? So they wanted to play with each other, and that's something that never gets old. So we sort of combined those two ideas and built essentially a simple quiz game, which was Quizzes. And that, even though it's such a simple idea, I'd say even till today, that is really at the core of, what people love about quizzes is you can just give students a bunch of questions and they have a great time doing it. And teachers get data, and it, just fits into their workflow. And so, that simple concept really just scaled to anybody anywhere. And in particular, the US had these really great teacher networks. And so, because we had no marketing money or anything, we posted it on forums and, the equivalent of your product
On
hunts.
Facebook and all.
Yeah, Facebook, and there was Edmodo in those days. They had these big teacher forums. So we just literally every post about, quiz or assessment on Quora would have a comment by me in those days.
But
And
was that an intentional choice? Like you targeted US teacher groups online?
No, we targeted teacher groups online, and they happen to all be US teachers, right? I think even today, I think, educators in the US are a lot more savvy with, sharing resources online and just learning from each other. And so that was how we ended up then finding that, this product is picking up there. And so then we, just worked with those users, and, the product sort of, took its direction that way. So it was very organic, yeah.
So you're basically telling me that by posting on Facebook groups from 2017 to 2025, you got 1 million monthly active teachers and 50 million monthly active students.
Yep. That's how we started, yeah.
I mean, and how did you decide on the name quiz? Like the spelling of quizzes, that was the only domain name available? Was that?
Yeah, you
Okay.
hit the nail
Got
on
it.
the head.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I tried for a lot,
Yeah.
I looked for a lot of nice names that I really liked.
Yeah.
And then I settled for Quizzes.
No other domain name was.
Yeah.
was
In fact, Quizzes with like 2 Z's and then 1 Z also wasn't available. You'd be surprised. And so even this wasn't really, I barely got this.
And have you had people reach out to you to buy now the better domain name? Do
No,
you
in
have that?
fact, I am reaching out to find the person who owns it. They don't respond. It's been like
Okay.
5-6 years that I'm trying.
With us, it's been the other way around. Like people
Yeah.
keep reaching out. Do you want to now buy toddle.com and all that?
Oh.
But they ask for $1 million, and I don't know, the investment is not worth it. So
Yeah.
Arpit, what about you? Was it an intentional choice? What's the journey? Did you post on Facebook groups? How did you become a global SaaS company?
So just for everyone's quick introduction, my name is Arpit. I'm the founder and CEO at Academia by Cerosoft. We're a student information system company. And how we started is, and this is a 16-year-old company. When I did my engineering in the US, came back to India, and then decided that we must do something about the Indian education ecosystem by building some new and great technologies for institutions here. So the first product that we actually launched Mujtaba with is a learning management system. And we thought that was the way to go. And we were way ahead of our time at that time, and institutions said, great idea, Arpit, but we are not paying a penny for it as well. So there was no clear market need that we were addressing at that time with that product. And then as we pivoted, we said...
You were selling to K-12 schools or
to higher
universities?
education.
To higher education.
LMS to higher education. That was our first play. It was a product called Web Guru. And then we...
And why didn't they need an LMS? Because they were already using like a Google Classroom or something like that?
This was
अच्छा, तब तो Google
2008
Classroom
to
भी नहीं
10.
था.
So
there was no Google Classroom then.
There was virtually no internet penetration in some of the tier 2 colleges as well. So it was...
And this is India.
This is India. So we said the first remit that we thought we had was to build for India, and we built the LMS. But then based on the market feedback and talking to everyone, educational leaders, we realized that what we needed to build for the market was a student information system. So that's how we got into academia, which is our student information system. Built the first version only for India, again. Went to the market with that. Got much better response. People warmed up to us much more as far as revenues and usage was concerned. But it was slow linear growth, and we said we must do something about it. And we got into a couple of opportunities overseas, which we realized we could crack with the work that we were doing. And we said, why restrict our TAM, SAM, SOM to just India? We can really increase our specific obtainable market, as they say in Mujtaba's language. So we said, let's go out and look at other economies as well. So we got early success in Middle East and Africa, in Commonwealth countries which were similar to India because of the product fitment that we had. And then we really started to grow from that. And here we are. Now we are present in about 400 institutions across 30 countries. And it's been quite a journey for us, taking academia from India to these 30 countries and digitally transforming institutions with it.
Can I ask
we
you
also
a question? Yeah. So when you say SIS, what sort of use cases do you cater to? And the second question is that when you have customers in so many different countries, have you had to customize the product for different geographies, or does a standard product work? Because I'm assuming if you're handling fees and all of that, there would be a lot of different local regulations and all. Have you had to
Yeah. So the SIS stands for Student Information System, which covers the entire processes for an educational institution, be they a university, college, or a school, from the time the student applies or inquires to the time they graduate. So that entire student life cycle and some of the support services are digitized, automated through our platform, Academia. That's the SIS. And the second part is, did we have to...
processes, it's just their data, or every fees also and all that as well you do?
It will digitize the entire process and then the analytics around it as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's that. And then talking about your second question, which is, did we have to customize it every single time when we entered a new geography? That's an interesting one. So when we go into any new market, we do have to tailor some aspects to it, especially the statutory requirements. Yeah. But what we have been able to crack with Academia is that we have built a configurable engine underneath, which means that we don't have to go back and tinker the code underlying Academia all the time. And that saves us a lot of time and energy. And we are able to configure it from the front end and get it up and running. So our time to market is pretty quick when we enter a new geography. That's how we've been able to do. And yeah, so that's a quick one on our journey so far. I also captured it in my, in an interesting way, and Mujtaba suggested during our thing. So there's a hip hop anthem that we created. On our story, it's in Hindi. So maybe a couple of gentlemen, lady may not be able to fully grasp it, but I'll go. So it goes, शुरू किया हमने एज अ टेक स्टार्टअप. आज हमारे कस्टमर्स हैं कई एजू एक्टर्स. वैसे तो रोज़ यूँ आते नहीं ERP, बट एकेडेमिया इंस्टीज का एक्स फैक्टर, ये हम नहीं कहते, ये खुद वही मानते. कोयले की खान में हीरे को पहचानते. 16 साल बाद एजू वर्ल्ड के हम स्टार्स हैं. क्लाइंट्स इंडिया में नहीं, बाकी चारों ओर हैं. इसीलिए कहते एकेडेमिया रॉक्स. इसीलिए कहते एकेडेमिया रॉक्स.
Very cool stuff.
And there's a phase 2 to it, which I'll close my talk with it.
नहीं, बढ़िया बढ़िया, बहुत सही.
No more questions, Dipanshu. It's time for you to tell your story.
Yeah. I was just curious. I thought yeah. So what do you want? Our journey. So, like Mushtaba said earlier, we were not really thinking of building a global business. In fact, when we started building Toddle, it was not even supposed to be a business. Before founding Toddle, I co-founded a network of preschools. So we run 3 preschools, continue to run those. We also have an IB school, and as a part of our school and preschools, we were not really happy with the tech platforms we were using. The main challenge was that we had to use too many different platforms to manage our own teaching learning workflows. Our teachers were using one platform for planning, one platform for portfolios, one platform for assignments. We thought, let's build something that will bring all of these things together. That's how Toddle started. It was a passion project. Serendipitously, it happened that in December of 2018, almost 6 years back, we were hosting some workshops at our school where we had educators from different parts of the world participating. They had a look at the platform. They really liked it. They said, guys, why don't you build this in a scalable way so that we can also take advantage of it? So that was a good kickstart for us. The first 3-4 customers pretty much came out of that small set of workshops that we hosted at our own school. But then I think after that, the biggest insight for me also has been what Deepak shared, that find good Facebook groups where teachers hang out and figure out clever ways to get people to talk about your product there. So what we did was, with the first 3-4 customers that we had, we really encouraged them, pushed them, bullied them, begged them that why don't you write about Toddle in those Facebook groups in really glowing terms. And that's how then that first 4-5 customers grew to 30-40, which is what we had in our first year of operations. And then I think in education, what's really important is that it's a really word of mouth driven industry. And teachers are really giving by nature, at least that's what I have seen. So if they really like something, they will tell 10 people about it, that we really love this platform, and that's how the word of mouth kind of grew. I think there's a mentor of mine who had given me this mental model of watering holes, which is the place where people are getting together. And I think the most important thing is just identify those watering holes in a cost-efficient way in the early days. So Facebook group was one watering hole. We attended a lot of global conferences by IB. We were focusing largely on IB schools. So IB global conferences were really good watering holes for us, and that's how the early part of it came in. And what we figured out, I think it was in hindsight, it helped us a lot, is that if there are no watering holes, then create your own watering holes. And so when COVID happened, this was in 2020, all the conferences were shut, right? So, and conferences were a big driver of lead generation for us. So we organized this thing called the Inquiry Educator Summit online, and it became the 23,000 teachers from around the world attended that, right? And it was an event that we kind of put together in a span of 3 weeks. So that kind of helped us. This was online, virtual event, 23,000, like over 2 days, no marketing budget there. Even we didn't pay the speakers, because speakers were happy to talk, because everything was shut at that time, right? When COVID had happened, no professional development was happening. We were able to get the best of the speakers from Stanford, Harvard, education schools, like people like Sugata Mitra, who is a legend in the Indian education space, right? All these people came and spoke at our event, and so 23,000 teachers ended up attending that. And so that kind of became a big thing. And then we learned from there that virtual events are a big thing. So we have doubled down on that since then. I think it's about, figuring out how do you get people together and talk about your platform. Yeah.
I just wanted, since you mentioned that we posted our way to 50 million, I'd say it got us to the first maybe a million, right? But a lot of the rest of the journey for us was actually an SEO flywheel as well, because millions of teachers were creating content pieces, and others were finding them online, right? So if you search for a quiz on literally anything, there's a good chance you'll get a quizzes link in the results. So that became a great way for us at scale to leverage the expertise of our users to create lead gen for us, right? Yeah.
In PLG, like you guys have killed it with product-led growth, right? What are some 3-4 things that SEO optimization is one thing? What are some 2-3 other things that you feel really work, like creating a good referral engine, like what very practical examples?
Yeah, so if I think SEO is probably the most powerful one for us beyond, I think, as you said, right, like just building a good product has a great value, and in EdTech, definitely there is a lot of word of mouth, teachers do talk, and the thing is like, an ad nobody looks at, right? Like nobody trusts an ad because it's, you will obviously say something nice about your product in an ad. But when a third party person says even the smallest nice thing about you, it really makes an impression. And so, in fact, we built this as a free to use platform for over 4 years, right? So that, of course, created a lot of goodwill as well, right? So I think that helped us. I don't know if everyone wants to spend 4 or 5 years not making any revenue, but we had a very lean team and, barely kind of spent anything. But we kept, improving the product, and people actually, one thing that worked for us is there was always something new, right? So every month there was some little improvement, something to talk about, and social media influencers loved that, right? So we would just share like a GIF about something we just built, and you'd be surprised, like the little things, like being able to print a quiz was one of our most viral posts, even though it was quite contradictory to us because our whole platform was about replacing the printout. Yeah. But then teachers loved it because there'll always be 2 kids who don't show up, and for them a printout works as a good, way to catch them up, right? So little things like that, we would always listen to users and add these things, and teachers would rave about these little things that we would not even, we'd just say, oh, somebody asked for it, we'll build it. Yeah. But like a little thing, like we allowed people to put any length of question, right? In those days, Kahoot was big. They had a character limit of 140 characters, which was very restrictive, right? And people were asking them to improve, like extend it for ages, but they never did. But we supported that through just, resizing the font, and then teachers started saying that, hey, on quizzes you can do long form questions, right? We never thought that would happen, but now people started putting like a 10-15 minute long question on quizzes, and so it opened up new use cases just by doing that little thing. So I think just improving the product was probably the other thing that actually fueled a lot of the buzz, and those little iterations versus like building big features that sometimes, I'd say more often than not, miss the mark. But those little improvements, people really love those, I think, yeah.
So there's kind of a spectrum here, right? So Deepak Quizzes was PLG, SEO, Toddle is kind of in the middle, community-led, some aspect of PLG, but it's community, and there's a sales conference outbound, and then this Serosoft Academia is like pure enterprise sales, inside sales, right? Was that a conscious choice? How do you think about it?
I think the way to think about it is especially the contract value. I think that's the first parameter to think about it. Second is the understanding of the decision-making process. So, for example, in academia, you would typically be selling enterprise software to universities, colleges, or schools, and you would be talking to multiple stakeholders. And it is important that you give them a demo or a run-through individually or in a group while addressing some of their concerns. So I think from that perspective, a lot of it we have been able to do through inside sales, but there's a one-on-one interaction required at multiple places. And there's only so much that you can do with a do-it-yourself approach. Because the contract value is higher, the interaction with customers has to be deeper, and it is more widespread across the account. So not to say that we do not utilize a lot of SEO and a lot of digital marketing and email marketing to generate that first point of interest, but to go through the entire sales cycle, it is important that we do engage with the customer in person as far as possible. And so this consumer customer behavior has pretty much shaped our strategy of what works and what does not.
Your sales team is based in India largely?
Yeah, so that's what I was getting to exactly. So we started off with the entire sales team based in India, and we followed the inside sales, travel to the country model. Over the last 2-3 years, we have now diversified, and just to give it more velocity and momentum, and we also have a lot more cash on our books, so we have put sales teams on the ground now, and that just creates a little more velocity. And it has helped us really increase the average contract value as well, as I said to my first point. So we have now teams in the US and some other countries which are meeting the customer right face-to-face wherever possible. It's worthy to note that they still do a lot of inside sales while being in America, but many times the customer is able to get a lot more credibility that the call is coming from America rather than from in India.
And how many sales did you do personally in the, you said 400? Out of those 400, how many have you closed personally in the initial days? Do you like ballpark number?
I would say in the initial days, 90%. I was involved at some point of time to give that confidence to the customer, and especially the leader who's leading that purchase from the customer side. Over time, it has now obviously gone down, but I do believe that for some of the large enterprise deals, I still have to be there, and that gives more momentum and push to the entire purchase process.
No, the reason I was saying was, I think at least in the initial days, it's super important that the founder is doing most of the sales. So I think, so we are at just north of 1,500 schools globally. I think 200, 250, the first 200, 250 was all closed by me personally. Not maybe 125 was closed by me personally over the first 2 years, and that I also felt that broke down, because if you're a founder, and for me being an educator and a school leader, that kind of broke down the barriers of geography as well. That okay, we are speaking to someone who speaks our language and understands us. I think for us at least that was super helpful. So if anyone is building and trying to sell to institutions, I think it's like business 101, but the founder should be doing the first 100 sales, depending on the contract value obviously, but the founders should do the first few sales themselves.
And to add to what the Dipanshu has said, my belief is also the founder is able to give the past and the future. When you do not have as strong a brand, that is important, the storytelling. So the past future really helps. The second part is obviously when the owner is sitting right in front of you, that builds in a lot more conviction, and they know that they have someone to really catch hold of if things don't work out. And that's where I think the founder-driven sales really works for companies like us at the start.
Just an interesting anecdote. This was a school in the UK, and I think I told you this, when we were selling to them, or in the initial days, the head of school said that, my boy, we have been here for 150 years. Your company is 5 months old. How long are you going to last? So I gave some random answer at that point of time. I don't even remember. But then 3-4 years later, they converted because I just persisted with them. I just kept sending him a mail that you are 150 years, we are 1 year. Okay, now you're 151 years, we are 2 years. You're 152 years, we are now 3 years. And then finally at that 152 and 3 mark, it kind of converted, because and it's a large account for us. It's one of our largest accounts. So yeah, that's founders doing founder things also helps a lot. Yeah.
What's been your experience building sales teams outside of your home country, right? In Australia, in the US, hiring, handing off sort of that process, decision making. And we had really interesting conversations before about the profile of salesperson, right? Teachers, would love to get thoughts.
So my biggest takeaway has been that hire teachers for sales roles. And so because it's very easy to teach sales, because I think teachers are naturally doing sales in their classroom every day, working with like 20, 24 students, trying to convince them sometimes about things that they don't really want to be convinced about. So teachers naturally have that communication instinct. They are very perseverant, process oriented. All those like empathy is there. Though all those intrinsics are there. So what we have realized is that it's much easier to teach a teacher about a tech product rather than teaching like a typical SaaS salesperson about education. And so for us, all of our sales folks are teachers, and I think that has helped us a lot. So we have this thing like at Toddle, one of our core values is being teachers first. So very intentionally, we have designed the team that everyone except design and engineering, because design and engineering are hard skill sets. You wouldn't expect teachers to have that. But in customer success, everyone is an ex-educator. In sales, everyone is an ex-educator. So that team composition has, I think, helped us a lot by staying true to those ethos. Yeah.
Deepak, Arpit.
I think very similar for us as well, right? That most of our sales and even marketing teams are, and customer success, they are all ex-educators. And they can speak the language, and for all the reasons Dipanshu mentioned. So yeah, it's in that sense been pretty similar. So not a lot to add to that, but that's continues to work well for us. Yeah.
In our case, it is definitely that and an extension in terms of we definitely have built teams while focusing on bringing them up to our cultural values. So whoever we have hired, we have really given them a strong grounding on what we have as our core values of the company, wherever they may be. And in terms of hiring, education definitely helps because domain expertise is required every time you talk to any customer. But at the same time, we also look at folks who know enterprise software because that's a different skill set that you get to the table. We also look at people who may have worked in very different kind of roles like the military, etc., which gets a new perspective to the table, and then putting in an interdisciplinary team after the right amount of training for them on our product and the domain. Interestingly, we have a karate belt system within academia where you need to have like a yellow, green, and a black belt on academia knowledge and education knowledge before you can start talking to customers. So, they acquire that expertise and then are able to really start going out in the market.
How do you guys...
Kind of similar to that over the last, because the platform has grown, over the last couple of years now, most of the people who we hire in sales roles are ex-Toddle users. Ex-teachers, ex-Toddle users, it's just very easy to then, scale them to a good sales persona.
How do you guys think about pricing across markets? Pricing across markets. And I know, like Deepak, for example, I understand that Quizzes has a lot of users in India, Southeast Asia, but you don't monetize them at all, that it's not potentially worth it even.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think initially we did a lot of differential pricing and all those things. And of course, there is a little price difference. But I think what we found is that outside of the US, it's mostly just selling, pricing it for schools. And there is, again, variance there. But initially in our self-serve model, we tried a lot of different prices. But then we sort of simplified it to essentially just, one price for your like Western countries and then one kind of maybe 50% for, developing countries. Where paying capacity is less. But then a lot of it is worked out in sales conversations, I'd say. But really the price point determines where we end up investing resources to go sell. And in the rest of the markets, it's more inbound where if, we keep the price similar and we probably don't capture a big portion of the market, but whoever finds a good fit, it's a lot more transactional for us, really.
You are able to do differentiated pricing across geographies in a self-serve model as well. Like just by reading someone's IP where they're addressing the platform, you will show them a different price, is it?
Yeah, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very cool, yeah, that you are able to. Yeah. Don't you get pushback from people that why is it cheaper in XYZ country or?
So, it's fairly standard, and there are some differences also between what you get. So let's say, AI functionality is a little limited then in the geographies where we have the lower price point. But it's, for example, like Netflix, right? There is a very different price in India and the US, but people, of course, the library of content is also different, but similarly, there are some differences, but most people don't really think that far. Yeah.
From our standpoint on the pricing side, since we are in the enterprise software space, there's a huge spectrum of pricing that we see from some of the competing products. And this can also vary from segment to segment. So it's a complex matrix of, the value that you're looking to deliver first. That should be the metric. Second is, what is your competition pricing this at? Thirdly, what are the different versions of the product that you want to introduce? When you start, you maybe want to leave more value on the table for the customer, and then over time go up the value chain. And lastly, one of the other things that drives our pricing strategy is what brand perception we want to create. Because in our kind of segment, it is natural that the higher you price the software, there is that association of premium, and it's a once in a few years purchase for many of the institutions. So they'd rather buy seemingly more expensive, more robust solution with the backing of the customer testimonials than necessarily a cheaper option. So I think a lot of these considerations define our pricing strategy whenever we enter a new market, but we really study deeply before getting into any new country.
We follow more or less similar pricing around the world. Yeah. So no differentiation. There is differentiation in terms of number of students. So if it's a very large account, then there would be private. That would apply globally. We follow broadly a similar price. Yeah.
The last topic before we have our closing musical performance from Arpit. Just around, so obviously you guys have all gotten to your geographic mix today from starting in wildly different places. You meet a 22-year-old founder here at this event today. What would you tell them? Build just for the US, build a global business, build for India. I mean, there's some companies here that are US businesses trying to build their India business. And then there are other companies here who are India businesses trying to pivot into the US or another market. What would you advise?
You're saying the geographical selection?
I think there's no standard answer. It really varies case to case. Like for us, the way we have grown is that we were just focused on IB schools. So there is no like geography cut here. We were building for IB schools. IB schools are very distributed globally. So just focus on that. And now we are bringing a more geographic focus to our business, where we have defined that we are going to focus on the Australia market and the US market. I think that's the best answer for us. People need to figure out what's the best answer for them. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd also say, in a way, we followed our nose, right? Like we kept our nose close to the ground. But when we saw a certain type of user was adopting it, we built more for them, right? Similarly, where sales are easy, we invest more there, right? So why work harder than you have to, right?
This is very important. You need to always find the path of least resistance.
Yeah,
wherever possible.
Yep, I hate working. So whatever is the least workful way to do something, right? And but I think that today, if we hadn't done that and just had been idealistic about saying, I'm sitting in Bangalore, so I'll sell it in Bangalore, we would have spent all our time solving the wrong problems. And we did what we knew how to do, which was build a good product, an application, and then we saw somebody use it, and we just followed that, those breadcrumbs. And even today, like now, we are expanding to other geographies, and because Quizzes casts a pretty wide net, we are able to see that, hey, there's an intent with this customer. We've signed a state partnership in Brazil. It's not that we had any presence there, but they were interested, they found a good fit, and so then we double down on that, right? So you have to be, I think, adaptable, see what's has some potential, and then really go after it. So I think that has worked well for us. we never, we didn't start knowing what to do, right?
And I think going back to what Arpit was saying earlier, if your ACV is less than $5,000-$6,000, then don't try to build a sales team. Go the PLG route, because I think having a global sales team at a less than $5,000, $6,000 ACV, you cannot really build a business there. I mean, you would know better, being an investor and
No
having
money,
seen
no
a lot.
money in that.
Huh?
No money in that.
Sorry?
No money
in
in that.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Take us home, Arpit.
Sorry?
Take us home.
So, yeah, I'll wrap up with that second part of the hip hop anthem. But on the pricing, on the regions, definitely the likelihood of getting to product market fit, the competition landscape, I think those are the two that have really driven our decisions. And product market fit can link to, Commonwealth countries having similar curricula. That's where we went first, and so on and so forth. So that's been our journey. And to close it out, the second half, it's what we aspire for. It says, million problems, we don't give a damn. Obstacles are temporary in our growth plan. बड़ी है सोच हमारी, बड़े हैं dreams. कुछ भी हैं आज, cause of our team. जो भी हमने सोचा, करके दिखाएंगे. जो मिशन हो, पूरा करके बताएंगे. कसम बजरंग बली की, देसी घी के बूंदी शक्कर पारे बटवाएंगे. जिस दिन NASDAQ पे लिस्ट हो जाएंगे. Thank you.